everyone, welcome back to the OTube channel, the channel dedicated to all things cheap in the world of fragrances. And in today's video, we're adding another installment in a recent series I've started called How Does It Compare, in which we take a designer, or more than likely a niche fragrance, and compare it to the more popular clones that are out there, seeing the differences between them, whether one is worth more than the other, or should you wait for maybe a better clone to come out later. So far, we've done a comparison between Parfum de Marly's Altair and French Avenue's Look and Brune, very popular on both ends. And so today we're gonna take another roundabout on a very popular niche fragrance. It's probably one of the most well-known niche fragrances, aside from Creative Ventus, one of the most clone, most inspirational, or taking this and mixing it with another profile. It has been done to death, hundreds upon hundreds of clones out there and things that smell similar to this, even in the ones who aren't in the fragrance community, the regular Joes out in the street, and those who are just wearing things for casual, not for a hobby or for an interest. They more than likely will be able to recognize this scent as something they either smelled or worn out there. It is none other than the company of Maison Francis Cardigan, and it is this one, Baccarat Rouge 540, and this is the original Eau de Parfum. We're not going to talk about the Extrait de Parfum, that'd be a totally different fragrance, but this is the one that is the most popular, the one that came out first, and the one that really hit the streets hard, and everyone and their mama went out and about running to it, buying it up, and then eventually when they found out it was too expensive, they bought things that were like that, and then everyone out there has been cloning it, and like I said, having their own twists on it, and making it more affordable and more available for everyone out there. And more than likely, you watching this have smelled this or smelled something like this and can recognize it yourself and pretty much know exactly what it's all about. And real quickly, I want to get into the note breakdown on this, and then we'll get into the clone that is competing against it. With this one, the top notes you have are saffron and jasmine. Middle notes are amberwood, ambergris, and hedione. And base notes are fir resin, cedar, sugar, ambroxan, and oak moss. And even though pretty much everyone has smelled this, I'm gonna go ahead and give you what you're gonna kind of expect out of this when you spray it on. If you're talking about the actual fragrance itself, is going to open up with a very light, fresh sweetness on the top. There's a aroma chemical called ethyl maltol, which has like almost a candy floss, sugary kind of effect to it, which has been used a lot in this and actually made that aroma chemical more popular to use in a lot of other fragrances as well, but it's kind of overdosed in this one, and you get that spiciness with that saffron, a little bit of a clean white floral note in there. As it dries down, you actually get a little bit of almost an aquatic, marine, ozonic freshness in the middle, which spikes up right in the middle, almost like a geyser shooting off in the middle of the notes, just really spreading freshness everywhere. And then as it gets way into that dry down, you get a little more of a heavier musk, more woody facets in here, and then a good bit of oak moss, actually adding in a little bit of earthiness. I know there's some people that say it has a little bit of an animalic, metallic nature to it, but I think that's due to the saffron and the white floral notes that are in here, but I don't really get a whole lot of animalics, not like you would expect from things like oud or leather and such like that, but it is a little bit earthy, green, aromatic, but very, very musky, fluffy, and light all the way through. This is very much a unisex fragrance. Both guys or girls could wear it easily, probably more suited for the cooler weather, maybe the cool end of spring, easily in the fall and winter, day or night, and maybe summer times if you're very light with it in the night and evening time where it is cooler or in air-conditioned settings. Definitely not meant for the scorching hot heat, because it would probably be a little cloying, especially if you spray too much on. Even though it does have that freshness in there, it still has a lot of spicy sweetness, and like I said, that oak moss. But enough about the original one. Let's talk about the fragrance that's going to be competing with this on how does it compare to it. I could go with a slew of other clone fragrances because there are literally hundreds of them. I guess you could pretty much match them the same amount there would be with Creative Ventus clones. You could pretty much guarantee there's going to be a BR540 clone to match that, if not twice the number, especially when you're talking about things that mix in this profile along with their own original scents. But the one that I have particularly been testing and that I've had forever that I really do like, and it's a great price and it's very available, more so than most of the other more popular BR540 clones out there, is this one by Lattafa, and it is called Abiyedh Rouge. And if you've been on this channel for a while, you already know that I have this and I've already talked about it. I've talked about the whole line of fragrances that this is in. And this is a clone that not a whole lot of people talk about, especially in the big fragrance community influencer realm. A lot of people will overlook this, probably because of the price, because they don't think it's going to be that good, but that really is not the case. The one that I've seen hype this actually the most, or talk about the most and push it, is actually Ashram Jensen's, which is how I found out about it, to get it years ago when I first started my fragrance journey, right at the beginning of even the YouTube channel itself. But it's one that I really have liked, and I was actually very surprised when I was comparing it to the original, how good and how accurate this actually came across. But before we get into the wearing experience with this and the differences between the two, let's go ahead and get into the note breakdown on this, which you're actually going to see is very different from the original. The top notes you have on this are nashi pear, kumquat, and bergamot. The middle notes are caramel and geranium, and the base notes are ambergris, musk, and oak moss. So there's a few notes in there, especially in the base, that are the same as Baccarat Rouge 540, the original, but the opening there with the nashi pear, the kumquat, and the bergamot, definitely different from the original, which makes you think it's going to have way more of a citric, fruity opening. And you have things like caramel and geranium, which do add in that sweet white floral nature. But the real difference you'd think is that opening, but actually it does not open up as fruity as you'd expect, especially when compared to the original. So what you're going to get out of this is actually an opening that is sweeter than the original, and I think the caramel note that's in here adds into an extra bit different kind of sweetness. It's not the same as like the Itomatol kind of candy floss sweetness. This does have that, but along with it, it has more of a brown sugar caramelized kind of sweetness in there, and that lasts all the way from the mid even into the dry down. So even though caramel is a middle note, it starts off very noticeable in the opening all the way through even to the dry down, and it adds an extra bit of that sweetness, more so than the original. And as it goes through, you still get a little bit of a spiciness. Even though saffron's not listed, it's unmistakably in here the same as it is in the original. A little bit of that clean factor, a lot of muskiness, a little bit of powdery nature, which also is present in the original. And as it dries down, you do get those woody, ambery facets in here with a little bit of that oak moss as well. And actually, as it dries down is when it gets a little closer to the original on the original's middle and dry down as well. But now comes the question of how does the cologne compare to the original? Well, first off, let's talk about pricing. Maison Frederic Cardigan is not a stranger to high prices. This is a very expensive, prestigious brand, and they let you know that through their pricing. The samples actually aren't that bad. You can get 4 of them for like $30-something online from their actual website. But when you get into the bigger size bottles, the full size bottles especially, just straight from the brand itself, even at some discounters, it is not cheap at all. When compared to this one, this cologne here is actually probably one of the cheapest that you can find in this kind of scent profile. There are a lot of way, watered down third-party ones out there that might be a little cheaper than this, but they're probably not going to have the same quality as this. So this is the reason why I picked this one, because I think between pricing and quality and accuracy and all that together, this is probably your best bang for buck. You can find this usually at like $15 to $20 between that area, sometimes less than that if you can find it for a really good deal at a different online discounter. It's really, really inexpensive, but don't let that deter you from the quality of this, because when you get into the accuracy of them, they're pretty much the exact same. When in reality, you're gonna ask a lot of perfumers out there, a lot of different people. Yes, Maison Frederic Cardigan is a great perfumer, he's very skilled, but in reality, the scent profile of BR540 as a whole is actually fairly simple. You get your head around, and it's very straightforward to make. It's mostly synthetic anyway. There probably are a few raw ingredients that are maybe captive to this company, where he went through, and maybe more particularly expensive, especially when you get into the more naturals that he probably used in the base. They may be a little more expensive and more naturals in this than there are in here, but the overall profile itself is mostly aroma chemicals, and cheap fragrances and cheap brands can replicate that fairly easily, which is why you have a lot out there that, even though there's a variation of different prices and different qualities and different companies, they all pretty much smell the same. And when you compare them to the original, you pretty much get the exact same thing. But now, what about the actual differences as far as smell? Well, the things that stood out to me immediately was that the original was actually a lot fresher than this cologne here. Again, it had that more ozonic, airy, almost aquatic kind of middle to it, which sprang up really out of nowhere, freshening the whole profile until it got into that deep dry down. And as it got into that dry down, the oak moss that was in the original was way more prominent and actually a little smoother than what was in here. But as far as the overall opening in the middle, this one actually competed very well with this. And as far as sweetness, the cologne was a lot sweeter than the original. So if you think the original is too musky, too airy, almost too transparent, transparent, you want a little more thickness to it, this cologne here will do that for you. That extra caramel note in here does add a different depth of sweetness that this one does not have, adding in along with what this already has with that saffron, erythritol kind of candy floss sweetness to it. And as far as performance, I did find that the cologne actually performed better than the original, but that is on a curve and needs to be taken with a grain of salt, because the scent profile of BR540, the way it's constructed with the enormous amounts of synthetics compared to naturals, is that it actually is a profile and a just overall scent that is easy to go nose blind to, olfactive fatigue, because it is so strong that your brain just shuts it off and tries to find other smells. That's why you may think you might not smell it after 5 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour or so, when really it is present, because I found that these have good longevity each, but the cologne has way better longevity. And even though I thought that this one kind of matched this one and just didn't go on that long, I found out hours later it was still on my skin. I got a good whiff of it. I was like, wow, it actually was way more potent than I expected, and people around me could smell it just as easy as well. So as a disclaimer, if you have anything that smells like BR540, just be aware that you may spray it, not smell it after a while. It does not mean you need to spray even more on. I can promise you it is there and is present, and if it's a good quality one, it will last way longer than you think. So don't go refreshing all throughout the day, otherwise you're going to just burn people's nostrils out of your skull. But overall, I did find that the cologne was way better projecting and way longer lasting than the original, even though the original was not far behind it. And for the $16 that you can usually find this at, that is actually really good. Something that adds a little extra to this scent. It has better performance, and one that is more available and more, guilt-free to spray a little extra on if you ever need to. It's definitely more worth the money on this, I say, than this, unless you just really want the brand name and want the, luxury and street cred, then you get this one. But if you want the same exact scent with a little extra, a little more, and for not a lot of money at all, this is definitely the way to go. And there you go, guys, that is my how does it compare with Baccarat Rouge 540 by Maison Francis Kurkdjian versus a clone by Lattafa, which is Anna Abiyedh Rouge. I highly recommend that you actually try out the original at some point, whether it be buying a sample online or a decant, or going to a store that has this in stock where you can spray it on as a tester, try it out, wear it, see what you think about it firsthand, and then go out and compare it to a clone that maybe you have of it, or maybe one that's online that you can order and compare it that way, just to get your nose on it and see what you personally think about it. Or if you want to compare these two on your own, do that. Let me know what you think about it. Also, let me know maybe what your personal favorite clone of Baccarat Rouge 540 is, maybe what you think is better. I'm sure there are a lot of other clones out there that are probably more expensive than this, that have better ingredients, maybe better perfumery and more smoothness to them than on Abiyedh Rouge here. But the reason I picked this one was, one, because I had it in stock here and I've tested it for years, but also because it is a great price. And I think it's a great middle ground and best bang for your buck if you want this kind of profile for the cheap, while also, like I said, being very accurate, which most of the clones out there are going to be, but this has a little bit of a twist on it that might make it even more wearable for you out there, maybe a little more interesting as well. Just as unisex as this oven, by the way, even though it does have more sweetness to it and not as much of an oak moss dry down, it still is the exact same profile overall, just as easy wearable for both guys and girls. So if you do happen to see it out and about online or in store, pick it up, see what you think about it. I highly suggest it. And again, guys, if you enjoyed this video, if you like what you've seen here, please consider giving the video a like and a thumbs up. If you agreed with me, if you didn't, leave comments down below what you think about it personally, and also what you'd like to see in the next how does it compare. If there's something that you really want me to buy a sample of and compare a major or popular clone with it, or maybe one that you suggest personally, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Maybe I can get my hands on it and try it out for a future how does it compare video. And if you're watching this video and you're not subscribed to the channel, but you do like what you've seen here or what you've seen elsewhere on the channel, I encourage you to please consider supporting this channel by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you can see all the other things I'm working on in the background to bring out to you guys, for you all to watch and enjoy. I'd love for you to be right along with me on this cheap and inexpensive fragrance journey. And hey, maybe I can even help you discover something new along the way. And as always, guys, that's all I have for today's video. Again, thank you for being here and for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that you've enjoyed it. I'm gonna see all of you again in the next video. Be blessed.